Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of The Truck Stops Here, brought to you by NATSO. Now, here's your host, Amy Toner.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. I'm your host, Amy Toner. You are listening to The Truck Stops Here, NATSO's podcast. NATSO is the National Trade Association for Truck Stops, and our mission is to advance the success of truck stops and travel centers. And this podcast is just one of the many ways that we do that. Today, I'm so lucky. I have NATSO's Vice President Public Affairs with me to talk about the NATSO Foundation's anti-human trafficking efforts. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. We wanted to make sure this happened in January because it is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So I know you have a lot to share in this area. Let's first talk about how did the NATSO Foundation first engage in the fight against human trafficking?
Sure. So first, let me say you're correct. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And because of that, I always like to take the opportunity to, either encourage our members to, begin implementing a human trafficking awareness program if they don't already have one, or if they do, to recommit to an existing program and take a look at how maybe they can grow it one step further in the coming year. So I think it's really important to kick the year off with that message to our members. But going back to your question, how we first engaged back in 2012. Oh my gosh, I love this question because it really shows that our industry has been working on this for a decade now. But back in 2012, we were invited by USDOT to participate in a group called Transportation Leaders Against Human Trafficking. And it really was a meeting of all modes of transportation. Train was there and rail and bus and air, and everybody was in the room. And it was, this really incredible conversation about how human trafficking victims are transported across state lines. And so after that meeting, I came back and I went to the foundation board, and they unanimously decided that this was an important issue that we were going to engage in. And I'm really proud of the work that we did back then because the Put the Brakes on Human Trafficking campaign that was developed by that stakeholder group, it still exists today. I still walk through airports. I still see it. And I'm just really proud to have been a part of that.
What are the foundation's core focus areas under the Human Trafficking Initiative?
So once the foundation board decided to engage, we really felt that our focus area was going to be on education and public awareness, and that we were going to create and bring the tools that our members needed to, really educate the industry and the public about what human trafficking is. And it really started when you look back 12 years ago. This issue has changed so much because back then it really wasn't this hot button issue that it is today. And we were really starting from the level of teaching folks what is the difference between human trafficking versus human smuggling. And so we started with, one of our core products, which is an online training tool. And it was designed so that our members could train their employees. What is human trafficking? What are the signs that I should look for? And if I think I see them, who do I call? And then from there, every year, we have just developed new products, new partnerships, and new resources to bring the members and really grow this program.
Let's dive into that a little bit more. I know you mentioned the training course. Are there other tools that we provide?
I'm so proud to say that we have a lot now. And it's designed really so that someone can look at all of the tools and design and figure out what is the best way for their location to engage and kind of develop a personalized plan. But in addition to the online training, for example, we partnered with the Department of Homeland Security to develop posters that would meet varying state requirements for posting information about human trafficking or the the hotline. A lot of states have different requirements based on the type of business you are. So we fulfilled that need. We work with groups like Truckers Against Trafficking to put together regional meetings between our members and law enforcement where they can get together and talk about what are maybe some local or regional trends. We help them connect with their law enforcement and establish those relationships. We work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I'm very worried there's someone important in here that I'm going to miss, and I don't want to do that. Certainly, Polaris Project. So we just continue to develop those partnerships so that we have a variety of resources and options for our members.
We'll put them in the show notes. Don't worry. I know it's really grown. The program has really grown over the years. Is that right?
It is. I mean, it's just, I think it's incredible now. I think it's incredible how many of our members have adopted our training and they utilize it in their new employee onboarding programs. They use the online training directly in their own learning management systems. They use the posters. They, sign up for the alerts from our partners. I think we've just had an incredible response throughout the industry.
You have been working on this for so long, since 2012, like you mentioned. What are some of the lessons that you've learned during your time working on the issue?
I think one of the biggest lessons that we've learned, and not just me, the NATSO members, I really think of this as a team effort, is really that you have to tailor your message, right? A truck stop, a travel center has so many different profit centers. And not the same person comes into each one of those profit centers. So you really have to think about what is the tool that's going to work in this particular space. There's, certain tools that are better, say, for a truck driver lounge or a driver kiosk, as opposed to maybe the front of the store where someone like myself, a mom, is coming in with a couple of small children. And I think that our members who have really implemented the programs the best really understand their audience, their customer, and what are the tools that are going to work for them.
I bet you get this question a lot, but how do you know the program is working?
For me, one of the most gratifying stories was we had a member who had a trained employee who was able to help rescue a runaway. And I think it's one of the less well-known facts is that, runaways represent a very high population that is targeted for human trafficking. So to me, that was just a very incredible story.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about human trafficking?
I think there's two. Looking at the industry as a whole, I think it's the misconception that any business would be complicit in this. Sometimes when you read press articles, it's just written in such a way where it sort of gives that idea. And it's really bothersome to me because our industry is so family oriented. It's generational. Our members live and breathe their businesses. They don't want any kind of crime. Right. So that really bothers me. And then just on a more individualized kind of note, I think there's just it really bothers me when I see the idea out there that somebody would choose this lifestyle. I see that as sort of a victimization of a person because it's unfathomable to me that it would even remotely be possible.
Okay, before I let you go, how does someone get involved?
So like I said at the beginning, every January, I love to, reach out to our members. I love to ask them, if you don't already have a human trafficking program in place, I'd love to talk to you because I think we can help get you started. We can figure out which pieces of the program work for you right now. And then for those who do have a program in place, I just encourage them every year to take a look and see if there's some new component that you can adopt and grow your program so that we just keep expanding year after year.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm sure we're going to have more resources and more resources. Okay. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And thanks for listening to today's episode of The Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at natso.com/podcast. You can find us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. If you have any questions, reach out to me at editor@natso.com.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by NATSO, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information.